Hi, Greg Lewis, MetaStock Software. Your presentation will start in about 30 seconds. I just want to take a moment to tell you about an incredible market analysis tool and how you can get your own free 30-day trial. MetaStock is an award-winning software and data package that has helped traders just like you for over 30 years. It provides powerful, customizable tools for every trading style that will help you manage your positions from entry to exit. MetaStock can quickly identify, test, and even forecast potential winners. Want to find out more about MetaStock and how it can help you in your trading? Visit metastock.com/YouTube to get more information and find out how to get your own free 30-day trial. Thank you, and we hope you enjoy your presentation.
Thanks for coming, everybody. Have a good group today, don't we? Jeff Gibby, in case you're not familiar, going to be doing a little bit of a class, going through some of the things I think are important, and hope you enjoy it. Anyway, let's get on to the legal disclaimer, shall we? As always, if you guys have questions as we go along, it's not like it was on Saturday where we've got like 700 people in the room. I will be able to answer them. I want you to ask them, all that kind of stuff. But we'll start with, I know what is going to be your favorite part. Today's demonstration is designed to instruct you on using MetaStock, the accompanying software plugins. It's not a recommendation to buy or sell, but rather guidelines to interpreting and using specific indicators and features within the software. The information, software, and techniques presented today should only be used by investors who are aware of the risk inherent in trading. MetaStock shall have no liability for any investment decisions based on the use of the software, any trading strategies, or any information provided in connection with the company. So I don't think we need to introduce MetaStock too much today, or me for that matter. For those of you that are here today, if you're also at the summit, will you do me a favor and actually type in that you're at the summit or yes into the chat box. I'm just kind of curious how many people made it from the summit that we had on Saturday. Yeah, we want. Okay, Tamer was cool. Bill says, I was at the summit. Great, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I was proud of it. I thought it went so good on Saturday. Just so many great experts. So, in any case, today, what I wanted to do is if you watched my presentation on Saturday, I really didn't get a chance really to talk much about MetaStock, but I wanted to talk in particular system testing. And I'm actually going to do a couple of bonus webinars. Like I think next week, I'm going to sit down and actually go through some of the favorite methodologies that we have built into MetaStock for free. Hopefully I think that'll be a really interesting class and a really interesting way to kind of design some stuff. I think it'll also be helpful for new traders as well as people that are interested in MetaStock. Let me go offline on Skype right here so we don't get those pop-ups the whole time. Where's that going? Okay. So, but anyway, let's just go ahead and quit Skype right here. Okay. And then that way I shouldn't get the pop-ups. Also, if there's things that you want me to focus on, I plan on doing 4, maybe 5 of these actual post-summit things. If there's things that you want particularly to cover, throw me a suggestion, and I'd be happy to do that. Let's just go ahead and get my email out to you guys. I know you guys, a lot of you have been emailing me, but in case you want to get a hold, don't use that email address. I actually never check that email address. Use this one instead. stock.com. You can email me at the other address, but I'll be like, I'll answer it like in 6 months or so when I'm cleaning that box out. So in any case, a little bit of a primer. We're an ex-Thomson Reuters company. About 3 years ago, we bought ourselves back from Reuters, and it's been a good separation. We still have everything that was good about Reuters, like all of the news. We still have all of the data, but it's allowed us to really kind of go in and focus on our software. And we're pretty happy with it. I mention this every time I talk about MetaStock. 24 years in a row, it's been rated #1 in its price category. So there you go. In any case, today what I want to talk about is using MetaStock to evaluate trading methodologies. You know, there's a lot of trading ideas and a lot of trading methods that are out there. And what I want to do is kind of show you how to use a system tester, how I like to look at system test results to see exactly you know, what might work best for me. Because when it comes to methodologies and when it comes to trading systems, there's a lot of them out there. And some of them are very active, and some of them are not as active. And our situations are going to be different. For example, I'm going to get done with work. I'm going to go home. I'm going to take care of my 3 kids, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to work again tomorrow. And so the time that I can actually dedicate to trading is kind of limited just because I work for a living. Whereas your situation might be entirely different. You're going to have a different risk profile and that kind of stuff. So what I want to talk about is how to really kind of look at #1, perform a system test in MetaStock. Before we do that, I'm actually going to kind of go through kind of a MACD-based methodology so everybody understands what I'm saying when I talk about system testers. But then we're going to test a trading methodology and kind of, I'll just pay attention to kind of what I think makes sense, what's important in terms of how frequently you're trading, how efficiently you're trading, that kind of stuff. So kind of the focus of the class today. And again, if you have other topics, I do think it will actually be cool to actually go through and talk about some of the systems I really like in MetaStock. There's a lot of them that are built into the methodology. So I'll do that next week. Oh, you guys are not seeing my screen. That's correct. Okay. Let's try this. Can you see today's class? All right. Very cool. Glad I read that comment. Thanks, George. Appreciate it. So just to see the slides that you missed, not too many, just the legal disclaimer. Now we won't actually spend a lot of time in PowerPoint today. We're really going to kind of get into the software, talk a lot about what the software is doing, that kind of stuff. So this is a quote I think that's perfect around what we're talking about today. I always say this was Richard Dennis. If you know who Richard Dennis is, I don't need to introduce him. Richard Dennis was the founder of the Turtle Traders. He was a very famous technician back in 1973. They had a little bit of a gentleman's bet about whether or not they could train traders, and so they set up the Turtle Traders, which was very, very, very profitable venture for them, very successful venture. It's a cool story, but this is a cool quote, and it leads into what I want to talk about today, and that's that trading requires a little bit of discipline. I always say you could publish my trading rules in the newspaper, no one would follow them. The key to trading is consistency and discipline. Almost anybody can make up a list of rules that are 80% as good as what we taught our people. What they couldn't do is give them the confidence to stick to those rules, even when things are going bad. Because every system is going to have losing trades. What I like about this is there are all kinds of rules, and some work, some don't work. Some work better than others. And the idea is to find something that works and trust in it and kind of use discipline. What I'm going to help you with today is the first part of that. How do we kind of analyze a methodology to figure out what works well? So discipline you can do on your own. I don't know how I would teach you how to do that. But it's a really, really cool quote. A lot of time, there's some statistics, and they did a study at one point that said, what is the best profession for trading? And when I do this in person, when I do this particular class in person, I ask, what do you think is the best profession to trade? Do you think it's a doctor, a lawyer, service member, those kind of things. What's the best profession? And the thing that was kind of amazing about the study was it was an airline pilot. And I think that has to do with discipline and the ability to follow rules. When you're an airplane pilot, you sit in a cockpit and you follow the rules. And if stuff goes bad, you follow your emergency rules. So anyway, I'm going to start. I think the best way to teach this is, and this is really kind of to give people an idea of what indicators are in general, but I'm going to start by teaching you a little bit of a trading methodology. It's a pretty good one. We're going to do the one that's built around the MACD method. So I'm going to teach you how it works. I'm going to teach you what a MACD is. Going to teach you all about Gerald Appel and kind of different ways you can look at the MACD indicator. And then we're going to test it and see how well it works compared to different marketplaces. So the MACD is actually a trend and momentum indicator. And, you hear phrases like befriend the trend and the trend is your friend and, all that kind of stuff all the time. MACD is a very, very good trend following way to look at the market. And let's kind of get into MetaStock, and I'll talk to you a little bit about how you look at MACD, how it's interpreted, how it's calculated, that kind of stuff. So, by the way, this is a picture of Gerald Appel. This is the inventor or the creator of the MACD indicator. So let's go ahead and get into the software. I'll talk to you a little bit about how everything's calculated in the program. So, right here. Okay. So if I wanted to calculate a MACD indicator is actually a collection of two different moving averages. And I was going to write down the exact values of the MACD, but I actually kind of forgot. So I'm going to actually plot MACD on the chart here. And then I'm going to go to the help, and I'll tell you what movings. That's 13 and 26, if I remember right. Okay. But to find out, and to add an indicator into MetaStock, you're going to have a big list of indicators that are available. Okay, and to apply one to a chart, what you're going to do is just find the one that you want on the list. You're going to go ahead and click on it. You're going to go ahead and drop it where you want on the chart. So in other words, I can drop it right here. I'm still holding down my mouse button, by the way. I can drop it kind of in the middle, and it'll open up a little window in the middle there. I can drop it over volume if I want to. Wherever I drop this thing, and I'm just going to drop it here on the top, but wherever I drop it is where it's going to land. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. That'll put my MACD indicator up there for me. Okay. And what I'm going to do is, because I want to kind of figure out what exactly those moving average values are, I'm going to go ahead and right-click on this, the MACD here, and instead of going to Properties, I'm going to go to Help. And it's also a really good way for me to show you how to kind of learn these things in MetaStock. There's a lot of really good information about different indicators. So in a few minutes, what we're going to do is we're going to do a system test. And we're going to find out what indicators work best on. I'm looking at the Apple right now, but we can use whatever symbols you guys want to. But you can come back in here and kind of figure out how an indicator is calculated, how it's interpreted, what the parameters are, and any kind of tips that are available. So the moving average convergence divergence indicator is calculated by subtracting the value of a 26-period moving average and a 12-period MA. Okay, so basically, let's go ahead and throw some moving averages on here. Boom. I'm going to do a 26-period exponential moving average. Okay, I'm going to change the color of it to blue. I'm going to make it a little bit thicker. You'll notice this stuff is pretty easy to do in MetaStock. I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. We've got a nice big thick blue line here. This is our 26-period moving average indicator. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do a 12-period. I'm going to leave this red, 12-period, exponential again, and then I'm going to do it red, but I'm going to make it a little bit thicker right here. So put a little bit more weight on it. Okay. So now, basically, if we're looking at the MACD, I'm just going to kind of change this to a histogram. Anytime you want to change something in MetaStock, just double-click on it. I'm going to go over to style here. I'm going to make it into a histogram and click on Apply. And that'll be a little bit more similar to kind of the way you've seen MACD before. So what you'll notice is like when a stock's starting to trend down, the MACD is going to start to go down, right? It's going to start to, and the faster that it goes down, the bigger the difference between the moving averages is going to be. Okay, as it starts to tighten it up, you'll notice, and we're just looking at the red line right now, not the signal line, but you'll notice as these moving averages start to tighten up, the difference between the moving averages start to kind of shrink, which causes the value to actually shrink. Okay. Likewise, when the market starts to trend up, then you're going to give it a value that's going to be positive, and then when it's sideways, you'll just get a really little MACD value. Okay, so what it's doing is it's basically measuring momentum. It's measuring the difference between these two indicators, and the bigger the value of the MACD that you're getting back is going to be basically mean that the market's moving stronger. Okay, make sense for everything? Harold says, Appel's MACDs go back to the 70s. I used to work at my kitchen table in the early to mid 70s and laboriously going day to day for whatever I was following. That was a lot of work. Today's investors are spoiled. Edward, I was born in 1974, actually. So, yeah, it is. Technology has made this a lot easier to do. So, were you doing MACD calculations and plotting them on a chart by hand, Edward? Oh, wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I remember like even when I started, which has been about 20 years, a lot of people, even then, were still subscribing to paper charts delivery services. It's just amazing how far technology's kind of taken us. So, in any case, there we go. Now there's a couple ways. That's how the MACD is calculated. If you have questions, again, ask me. I'm going to really try and, yeah, that's cool that you used to draw your own charts, Edward. I'm going to do my best to pay attention to chat. Sometimes I kind of get on a rant and I just ignore it for a little bit. But I'm going to do my best to kind of just keep up with any questions that come in today. So now how is it interpreted? So the red line here is, I actually need to finish talking about how it's calculated. So the red line is the difference between the two moving averages. The blue line that you see that kind of goes over it is what they call a signal line. And the signal line is just a 9-period moving average of the MACD. So that's why it kind of appears to lag the MACD. Okay. There's several ways. Actually, there's 3 main ways that you can use the MACD as an indicator. You can use it with its signal line. Okay. And the way you would look at that is when the signal line drops, when the MACD drops down below its signal line, right here the MACD is above it, drops down below it, at that point you would start to consider Apple in a bearish state. Okay. Then of course when it crosses back up, it crossed up above its signal line right about here, you consider that in a bullish state. Okay. And what I'm going to do, I've actually kind of just modified this a little bit just to kind of show you the parts I want you to see at a time, but I'm just going to attach the expert advisor here. And you'll notice there's a little bit of a trend line. That when you attach the MACD expert advisor, it's going to show you the trend line. So you can always see, okay, right here it was in a bearish state. Right here is where it crossed up into a bullish state. And this is just telling you whether your MACD is bullish or bearish. So if you're looking to place a trade and all of a sudden, let's say today, it looks like today it went bullish. Today it crossed up above its signal line if you look at the very hard right end of the screen. So on this particular case, according to MACD and that interpretation method, that would be a valid buy signal. We just went from bearish on Apple to bullish on Apple. And if we're bullish, what would we do? We'd buy stocks or we'd buy calls, right? So in this particular case, that's one way you can actually interpret it. If it goes from bullish to bearish, you can go ahead and take a buy signal. The other way some people will look at it, and that's the way we're going to actually test today. Okay. The other 2 methods that people use is they use it as an overbought or oversold indicator. Okay. So if we come down to a very low value in MACD, like we were right here in Apple, or here in Apple, well, it can only sustain a downtrend for so long, and at some point it's going to be oversold, right? And then the buyers are going to come back up and they're going to help lift the stock up. So if we actually kind of look at these kind of extreme values as being overbought, oversold, we can use it as a bit of a contrarian indicator to kind of get into the security. Okay, so that's number 2, as an overbought, oversold indicator. Okay, And the third one is really actually pretty cool. It's what they call the third way to kind of look at MACD is actually what they call divergence. Okay, and I like looking for divergences in MACD. One of the people I really respect a lot in the market, his name's Alexander Elder, has a book called Come Into My Trading Room. Fantastic book, by the way. But he actually calls divergence the most powerful signal in all of technical analysis. That's how much he likes divergence. With divergence, what we would be looking for is we'd be looking for the peak to trough values to be kind of going in different directions. So for example, just to kind of break that down a little bit for you, if I come in here to a chart and I look at kind of the high level here and the high level here, you can kind of take a look at that and it's kind of going a little bit flat. Okay, if I look at that and I kind of look at the same kind of analytics here, and I'm just using the drawing tools in MetaStock. This is kind of, I just draw the points on the chart that I want. But if I look at kind of the same area, well, they're both kind of headed down a little bit. That's not a divergence. Okay, but if for example this was going up but this was going down, that would be a bullish or a bearish divergence depending on which way it's going. Okay, and it's a very, very kind of cool way to look at the market. The MetaStock program will keep an eye on those for you. And you can do scans for MACD divergences fairly easily in MetaStock as well. Okay, so those are the three methods. Again, the one that we're going to focus on mostly is the signal methodology. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back into this expert advisor and I'm actually going to apply the buy and sell signals. And basically what we're going to, the way that MetaStock does this is it just kind of follows the rules for MACD. So if right here we're going to be bullish on Apple, right? Because it's up above its signal line, so it's bullish. When it crosses down below its signal line, then we'd be bearish. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and apply the signals for that. Let me just go into the properties. By default, these are turned on. I just wanted to show you the trend ribbon and turn them on later. But what this is actually going to tell you is exactly when the MACD would have issued a buy or a sell signal based on those rules. Okay. Now the things that I like about technical analysis that make it quite a bit different than fundamental analysis is the objectivity of it. In other words, if I was gonna ask every single one of you if this crossed up above its signal line today or here, you'd all agree that it did. We're not kind of trying to make a decision or a judgment call based on, you know, oh, QE4 or QE5 or whether the Feds are going to raise interest rates. What we're looking at is what the other buyers and sellers are doing and making our determinations based on the trend and the momentum of the stock in the case of MACD. Okay, we're not trying to make decision calls whether or not the iPhone is gonna be destroyed because they're no longer including a headphone jack. We're looking at what other buyers are doing. We're looking at the trend and the momentum and the strength of the stock in a way that's very objective and not subjective. And that's extremely helpful when you're trying to make a trading decision that's not based on emotion. I'm sure a lot of you guys are guilty of this, but I am very guilty of this over the years of actually kind of wanting to place a trade and then developing a justification for making that trade because I would just really want to buy that stock right now. And that's something I wouldn't recommend that you do. What we want to do is we want to trade as a business plan. We want to have clearly defined entry and exit rules, and we want to have an idea of where we're going to be putting stops in and all that kind of stuff so that we can have and maintain discipline. Okay? So here we go. There's the MACD buy signal, MACD sell signal. You can see exactly where they appear on the chart. I did talk a lot about the expert advisor and the commentary functions in on Saturday, but there is obviously one that's built in on this particular expert advisor. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on View Expert Commentary. It's going to basically, because there was a signal today, which is random. I actually usually look at Apple. There's not a signal every day, but it's basically going to kind of give you an overview of what the MACD is doing. So in this case, the MACD can provide signals in three ways: the signal line, the overbought, oversold, and the divergences. In this particular case, the MACD is bullish, and it just traded above its signal line, and that's a bullish signal to buy. Okay, the MACD is not an overbought and oversold range, and there hasn't been any divergence, so it's actually going to tell you everything about the MACD and what you need to know about it on an up-to-date basis. Okay, couple of questions. Edward asked the question, the MACD records the value in red, why not the 9MA line in blue for exactness? And, well, yeah, that's just the color I kind of arbitrary. I'm not actually sure of the question, but I just arbitrarily selected blue. So, but of course you can change it to whatever you want. Like if you wanted it a different color, you just double click on it. It's going to come up and you can actually change the color here. I'm not going to actually change the color. I'm just going to make it a little thicker though. So you can have it exactly the way you like it. The blue was just a personal preference and not something else. Okay. Is anybody having issues hearing me? John Williamson said he had extremely fragmented audio. Okay. All right. I'll keep going. If you guys are having audio problems, what I'd recommend is you, if you're streaming something, or if you've got like Outlook running or something like that, usually just closing programs that take up bandwidth will rectify that issue quite a bit. It's usually a volume issue. Okay. Let's get back on track. I was talking about why I like technical analysis. It's very objective. It's also measurable. So in this particular case, we just spent, holy cow, we spent 23 minutes talking about MACD. I better kind of hurry a little bit. But we just talked a lot about how MACD is working in this particular stock. I went into the help files. We talked about how you can kind of use those as a way to kind of learn a little bit about what MACD is. But the thing is like, if we kind of just look at this indicator quick list, there are a lot of indicators out there. You know, there's 200 or 300 that are built into MetaStock. You can pull your own out of stocks and commodities every week. And one of the things that when I used to work in inside sales, a lot of people I would kind of start to kind of talk about all the things that are in MetaStock. Oh yeah, there's 8 different charting styles. You can do system testing, and there's 200 indicators. And a lot of people would be like, well, I just don't know where to start. Do I really need to learn about 200 different indicators to figure out what works well for what I want to do? And the reason, because these are objective, I can very easily look at here and I can say, well, okay, I got this buy signal at 94 bucks and I got the sell signal and I got out of my long at 108. Did I make money there? Can easily go in and kind of do that type of analysis. But how do I figure out where to start my education as a new trader? Or how do I know what indicators are working? I want to trade Apple, or I want to trade optionable stocks, or I want to trade stocks that are on the Dow, or I want to trade futures like 20% of you said in the poll earlier. How do I figure out which methodologies I should focus on? Because quite honestly, there's indicators in MetaStock that after 20 years, I still can't tell you how they're calculated because I don't use them. But how do you figure out what works well and then focus your education on that? I wouldn't say it's a skip of your education to figure out just an indicator works and start trading it, because I think it's important to understand how the indicators are calculated and understand why. But I also think that the ability to focus on those indicators and those methods that actually work well in a market allows you to bypass a lot of education, a lot of things that you don't even care about. Why do you care about parabolic stop and reverse if it doesn't help or if it doesn't work, right? And I'm not saying parabolic SAR. It's actually a really cool indicator, but I'm not saying it doesn't work. But the idea is to be able to focus in on kind of those methods, those indicators, and those systems that are working. So, and we do that. It's one of our power tools. I'm going to open up our power console here. We're going to run a system test. We're kind of going to evaluate methods that work. So let me go ahead and do this. Okay. I'm just going to click on the System tab button here. There are probably about 60 systems in MetaStock. One of the things that's cool about MetaStock is if you want to, you can create your own methodologies. We create a lot of them around different experts, but there's 60 or so that are built into MetaStock. And what I'm going to do, and there's a ton of them that I've just written over the years, so your list will probably not be the same. But what I want to do is I want to make sure that I'm using the ones that you can use, the ones that are built into the system, the ones that I haven't created, and that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and select some methodologies here. We'll do some Bollinger Bands. We'll do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to avoid the ones that say with optimization purposefully, because those take a little bit longer to test. And here you just select the systems that you want. So I'm going to skip that one. Those are both optimized. Optimization just allows you to test a bunch of different variables and values. It's handy, but it just takes a little bit longer, so that's why I'm kind of going to skip it. And again, I'm also looking for methodologies that I know you have access to. So if you have MetaStock, if you're on the extended trial, you'll have these as systems you can use. Okay. We also have the ability that's very cool is we can take all of these methodologies and we can test them against Apple. But we can also test them against a whole marketplace. Like if we wanted to, we could say, well, go take all of these methodologies and test all of the optionable stocks. That's pretty cool. We're not going to do that today because it takes about 45 minutes, which is a little bit tough to fit into an hour-long webinar. But I'm just going to, we're going to basically select those systems. I've got enough, I think. Oh, let's throw a point and figure in there too. This pattern system is pretty cool sometimes. And down here, I can actually come in here, and if you did want to test a whole bunch of stocks at once, you can come in here to the power thing, the tree menu, and you just navigate. Let's say we wanted to test all of the optionable stocks that are out there, or maybe all the ETFs that are out there. You notice just by clicking those two buttons, I actually added 6,215 stocks to that test. And MetaStock will go through, it'll go back and it'll say, okay, how well did this work? And you have the ability to kind of look at all 6,200 stocks, get an idea how well a system works over a broad range of stocks, which I think is significant. If something works over, let's say, 4,000 out of 6,000 stocks, then you're not just testing to make sure it just works on one. It kind of gives you a little bit of an idea that, hey, maybe there's some more prudence to this methodology. So I'm not going to do 6,000 stocks here. We'll do Apple because that was the example we started with. Do you guys have some stocks you want me to throw into this test? I do want to do a few stocks here. I'm going to type in MSF. Yes, Edward, I am recording it today. I am going to be out of the office tomorrow, so it'll probably send it around on Monday. IBM, you got it. Okay. NFLX, sure. FB, that's enough. Okay, we'll just stick it with that. So now what I've done is we've taken about 20, 30, 40 systems maybe. I've put in 5 tickers here up at the top. We're going to test those 5 tickers and see how well these 50 or so systems work on those particular stocks. We're going to go back. Let's go back. We're going to take all the trades long and short, so we're going to do both here. I'm going to do about a year of data. Now with Reuters data, if you want to go back, it depends on the instrument, but in most instruments, if you're looking at stocks, for example, you can go back to like 1980 if you want to. If you're doing futures, you can go back into the 70s. If you're doing international market, you can usually on a daily time frame go back 5 to 10 years pretty reliably. Okay. In here, I'm going to come into the trade options. Okay, and I got to uncheck this points only test. A points only test is like if it gets in at 5 and it gets out at 10, you netted 5 points, and it just figures out how many points that you win. But I am going to start with an equity test. What I'm going to say is I'm going to start with a hypothetical trading account of $10,000. Okay, and every time we get a buy signal, I'm going to trade either 75 shares at a time, or based on a transaction cost of let's say $750. Or, you can set it up however you want, or a percentage of available equity. And with percentage of available equity, basically, if I leave this at 75%, which I think I'm going to do, it'll start with $7,500 because that's 75% of 10,000. As your account grows, it's going to invest more because it's doing always your percent of available equity. So that's a good way to test if you want to kind of test it with kind of leveraging your returns. You may want to do it as kind of some of the other methodologies. The nice thing is you can pick whatever you want, right? So I'm gonna leave the options here. Under broker, let's go ahead and put in for a stock trade, $5 in, $5 out, and I'm not going to put any requirements in for interest rates and margin requirements. I'll just leave those out as our calculations. For our trade price, this is going to be by default selected as realistic market price. Okay, and I'm going to explain what that means. All that means is it's going to wait until the end of the bar to make a decision to buy. Okay, because if you're while following the market and you're waiting for that that cross of the MACD against its signal line, and it happens, but then the stock comes back down, the signal goes away. So a lot of times what you'll do is wait till the end of so pretty close towards the end of the market, and then decide what you want to do with your trade. And that's on a daily basis. It could also be an hourly basis or a 60-minute or whatever. We're testing daily here, but you can test whatever increment you want. Going to go ahead and click OK here. Again, we're going to test daily. I'm going to go ahead and start the system test, and it's going to go through and evaluate those. So looks like we did about 220 different systems is what we're doing. It's chunking through them. It's going to go through about 250 days of data. And so that's about a year. It's about 252 trading days in a year. So about a year of data. And it's going to tell us how well these systems performed and which ones were the best and that kind of stuff. Okay. Oh, Harvey had a question. Do you mean dollars or points on commissions? When we were looking at that trade option screen, I had it set as points. So that's 5 points to get in, five points to get out. On a non-leveraged instrument, that's pretty much the same as $5. You can also set that to percent. So for example, if you are trading a percent of how much you're trading, it probably is a good idea to get a broker, unless it's a very small percent that isn't charging you a percent anymore. Most of them have gone to flat rates, but you can test that as well. So it's about it's chunking through. We're about 26% of the way. It's usually a little bit faster than this. It does slow down if you start to do a GoToWebinar session. And share it, because it kind of clogs up your internet a little bit, but internet speed is the part of it that'll slow this down the most. So, but it actually goes through them pretty quickly. If you want to do like kind of give you some benchmarks, if you test 8,000 stocks, which I've done that test a lot, on a normal operating, it'll take about 45 minutes to go through 7,000 stocks and about 50 systems or so. You guys have any other questions while we're going through this? Feel free. Okay, I'm going to drink a little bit of my water and think of something to say for 10 minutes or so while this finishes. I might cancel it, but I do want to kind of go through all of the systems, so it's about halfway done. Oh, there's an alert. Those are good questions, actually, Edward. And Sheldon, that's another good question. Thank you for the questions. I was going to hum Jeopardy, so it's good to have some questions. Yes, LCI is actually a system that's built into MetaStock that was put together by Logan Connors. It's a very, very cool trading methodology. I'm actually going to cover it in detail when I do my class next week on the best systems in MetaStock. Okay, it's actually really, really cool, but I'm saving that a little bit because there are a lot of things that are involved in that system, like support and resistance and primary bottoms and primary tops. It's a very, very cool system. It's included with MetaStock for free. I'd recommend you play with it. It's actually pretty cool. The guy that created it started on our support team. He worked in our sales team for right behind me, as a matter of fact, for a few years, or I think 5 maybe, and now he trades, and he's very actively involved in trading for a hedge fund. So that's what LCI means. It means Logan Connors. Okay. And I don't remember what I means actually. MS11 are some systems we actually created for MetaStock version 11. We just never renamed them. Performance systems is a collection of about 26 systems that were created independently from us, but they were given to us as part of the Performance Systems Plus add-on. They're just free systems that are included in MetaStock. Sheldon asks, are all these systems independently run? Yes, basically what it does is to give you the process is it says, okay, how did this work on Apple? How did this work on IBM? How did this work on MSFT? And it just repeats that for every methodology that we tell it to test. Okay, I hope that answers my question. Maybe sometime you could spend an hour on how to Apple fibs. Well, I don't have to spend an hour on how to do fib lines or how to apply fibs. How to apply fibs. I was like, well, okay, I could come out here and say that we're not taking the headphone jack off of the iPhone. That would be an Apple fib. I can show you how to apply fibs in just a few minutes, actually. It's not too hard. To use them, to actually utilize them, and how I can give you, I try to stay away from kind of a lot of advice on how to trade just because I'm not like an independent thing, but I can give you an idea of kind of how people use fibs in a few minutes. They're really easy to apply in MetaStock, and I can give you just a little bit of a, after we get done with the system test, I will show that to you. I will send an email out to everybody when I'm going to do that class. It's the very first time I'm going to do that class, so it might be a little bit rough, but I doubt it. I'll be about as rough as I always am, I guess. But we'll go in and I'll show you how. What I want to do is actually focus on some of the systems that I really, really like. So, and I think I'm going to probably do that one. I had to look at my schedule and what other webinars, but I think it's going to be like Wednesday, same time. Okay, so 6 o'clock Eastern on Wednesday. And if you can't make that, I understand. I'll record it and send it to you. I think it'll be a cool class too. There's some systems I really like. So getting back to here, right, what we've got here is the systems that we tested. Here's one of the MACD systems. It actually lost money on the 5 or 6 different stocks. And this is against all 5 or 6 stocks. So for example, that's why it's all average. This is the average net gain across the stocks that we selected. Okay. There were a lot of stocks that lost money, but they didn't lose very much. But according to this one, our best performing system over those basket of stocks last year was our fractal trading system, which is actually a pretty cool system. I guess we'll talk a little bit about it because it was the best performing. It actually, in our basket last year, it didn't perform a profit. Or it didn't, the worst profit was actually 0. It is a kind of a little bit of an active system. It traded about 153 times. So again, if that might be a little bit too much for me, again, based on what we were saying before, but the average profit per trade was about $2.17. So this is a very small basket of stocks. It kind of gives you the idea of kind of exactly how well things are performing. This is the best performing system. It's pretty active, 153 trades in 250 days. That's fairly active, right? But on average, it gained us about 31%. So our next best performing system was a 10% gain across the basket of securities, and on average, the average trades was actually quite a bit more. So let's take a look at the fractal trading system. Okay, going to go ahead and click on View right here. Okay, and now we're going to be looking at, I guess I did the wrong symbol for Facebook, so that's why it's got no bar. But now we're going to be looking at how that fractal applied across our whole basket. And obviously, if this was 6,000 stocks, you'd have 6,000 little bars here. So just the thing I like about this is we can kind of see that now this is a very small sample size, 1 year, 4 stocks, right? So, but if I see kind of that it works well on about 6,000 or 7,000 stocks, I can kind of get a good feeling for this works pretty well across the broad market, which gives me more confidence in it, right? And it also allows me, in this case, if I had 6,000 stocks and the best were Microsoft followed by Netflix followed by Apple, well then I'd want to focus on the top 5 or 10 that are actually performing well. Okay. In this particular case, Microsoft performed the very best. It had 192 trades, but did turn around a fairly nice profit last year. Its profit versus loss was 90. It had 90 winning trades and 102 losing trades. And then kind of that's how you look at the numbers down the line. This one had 99 trades on Netflix, made about 3,000%. I kind of think there might be something a little off in my settings. Apple made about 2,400%, just taking the signals. So kind of give you an idea of how well the stock actually performed and which ones worked, and kind of allowing you to look at it. Now just kind of, and then obviously you kind of want to take a little bit of a closer look. If I look at Microsoft, for example, let's go ahead and take a look at that. If I click on View, it's going to open up a report for me. And it's going to tell us kind of some important numbers in terms of how things are working. The ones that I like to pay attention to, and I do notice that time is getting long. Our annualized performance, wait a minute. We actually tested 7,693 daily bars. I was wondering why it was taking so long. We started a test in 1986 through 2000. Well, that changes everything. I was wondering what was kind of a little bit weird. Okay, so you can actually test that far back. We tested from 1986 to today, or about, okay, that makes a little bit of sense. So over that time period, just we would have averaged about a 218% gain. Wow, I didn't mean to, I meant to do 1 year. Should pay attention when I'm doing these things, I guess. I was like, why is this taking so long? It usually doesn't take this long. Well, it does take a little bit longer when you go back to 1986. So our average profit for trade was about $20,000. That's probably later when we had grown the account quite a bit. We had a total of 102 profitable trades. See, this changes everything. It's not really that active. On 192 trades in a number of years is not that bad. 102 trades that were unprofitable and 90 that were profitable. Okay, our average profit per trade was about $20,000. Our average loss per trade was about $11,000. Okay, so you can go way back in time if you want to. You can also do 1 year or 5 year, which is what I kind of intended to do. But actually, this really held up really well on this particular stock over the years. Okay. Also, what I like to look at, I don't really care about most consecutive wins, but I do care about most consecutive losses, because if I'm going to lose 9 times in a row trying to trade a methodology, I'd like to kind of take that into account when I'm making a decision about what trading method to use. And in addition to that, I want to be kind of prepared to lose 9 or so times in a row to take a winning trade. Again, discipline is key. Can I please explain the PS fractal trading system number 2? Well, I'd love to. And what I'm going to do is, again, what I thought this was a pretty good shortcut to figuring out like what methodologies work. If I come to equity here, it's going to show me equity over time. This is also important. Obviously, you don't want your trades to be going over a roller coaster. This one did it's pretty consistent. You can kind of see the drawdowns. I think those drawdowns would look a little bit bigger if we're looking at smaller time frames, but it's been fairly consistent since 1986, I guess. What you don't want is you don't want it to go completely into the negative and then up to 100,000 and then completely into the negative, because you can't really trade that way. But what you want to find is you want to find something that's fairly consistent. Okay. And so I think the equity curve is one of the most important things you can look at. What stock are we looking at? Because I'm going to answer your question next, Rick. Or I'm sorry, Riz K, not Rick. So this is the fractal trading system 2. If we wanted to kind of get an idea of how well this worked, or what the methodologies or the rules, again, if it's a shortcut to our education, not a bypass to you, well then what I would probably do is open up the chart. So let's go ahead and open up Microsoft. Just going to come back here. Going to open up Microsoft. And I'm going to actually, from here, one of the things I like about this is I'm going to attach the expert just by opening up the chart. So I'm going to attach the expert advisor. The expert that I want to look at is the PS fractal trading system number 2. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll down here a little bit. There it is. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open the chart. It's going to open for me. I can see exactly when the buys would have been placed on the chart. Here was the last one that we had. I can go and look at historically how they've worked out, and then I can kind of read a little bit about the system as well. Well, there are many different definitions for fractal and securities trading. Here, I'll make this a little bit bigger so you can see it too. The definition used in these systems is a minor version of the type defined by Bill Williams, PhD, in his chaos-based trading methods. According to Bill Williams, an up fractal is defined as a middle bar with 2 lower highs on each side of it. A down fractal would be the reverse, being a middle bar with 2 higher lows on each side of it. This system enters a long position when price crosses up above the most recent up fractal. The position would be exited upon crossing the low of the second most recent fractal. No short positions are taken. So this is a long-only system. Okay, and it's just telling you exactly what it is. So the fractal is basically you're looking at an up fractal. It's defined as a middle bar with 2 lower highs on each side of it. Okay, so this would be a fractal here. Or here's a fractal here. Here's a higher high, 2 lower highs next to it. That's a fractal. Okay, so basically this is looking for an entry based above that fractal. Okay, if you want to learn a little bit more about it, you can kind of obviously look up Bill Williams, and if there's an entry signal, it's going to basically tell you that there's a buy signal. Or and in this particular case, I just moved that commentary from here to here just by clicking on the chart. It says enter long today. If this is back here, right? Enter long today with a market on close order at the market price on tomorrow's open. Gary asked, can these systems be automated? Not yet. Thanks for the question though. One of the other things that I want to show you, obviously, so now if I was looking at Microsoft today, there's not a buy or a sell signal. To quickly put it in, to quickly show you the last power tool in MetaStock is if I wanted to find a signal today, let's say we did like PS fractal system or one of the other systems, you can click on Explore here. If you come down to that PS fractal system number 2, there it is. I can come in here and say, well, show me whatever buy signals you have on whatever lists that you have. Here I'm going to do the weekly options. There's about 453 weekly options. I'll go ahead and start the scan. It's going to go through and then it'll tell me out of those 450 optionable weekly stocks, which ones have an up fractal or a down fractal today. It just gives you a report. Very easy to use. Okay. How to apply fibs for Stan Schultz. All right. Very easy. Okay, so we'll let this run. It's going to run. It'll have a report done. It's not that big of a deal. It just gives you a list. You can take that list and save it, obviously, if you want to. This one is rejecting about 95% of the securities. And I just love not having to look at 95% of the securities every day. Okay, but if you want to apply fibs, I'm just going to move this over to the over here to the side. We'll let it run over there. If you want to apply Fibonacci's, right here this is our drawing toolbars. Well, both of these are our drawing toolbar. This is our rotating toolbars. Okay, so you have all of your Gantt fans, you can have envelopes, you can have all kinds of different stuff you can apply. I want to find the fib one, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rotate. It's also got your text tools, your grid tools, that kind of stuff. Here we've got the there's Fibonacci fans. I can't really explain Fibonacci fans too much to you because I don't use them. But I can talk a little bit about projections and retracements. So here's the way the report looks. Those are the stocks out of those 450 that had a fractal buy today. Okay, and you can save this off. You could take this and save this as a list inside of MetaStock. So then you can go and arrow through them one at a time, and kind of decide the ones that you want. But that's how the scanning works. Okay, to draw a Fibonacci, you're going to basically, we'll just do a retracement here. Just going to basically select the retracement tool. And what you're going to do is draw a high from a high to a low, okay, from here to here. Usually there's some art to actually drawing these. Some people like to draw them and exclude some of the wicks. I just usually go from the high to the low because it's not, it's more art than science, I would say. Generally, the way people use Fibonacci's are as kind of a support and resistance type of a tool, kind of give you a projection of where things might be going. So if we look up here at this last expansion cycle, what you'll notice is it came up, we hit the top, and even just the level where it seemed to consolidate was the 23.6 before it started to head up again. Okay. Right here is 23.6. It's one of the main levels that a lot of people look at. These are just main levels where prices generally tend to consolidate. And you'll notice right here it kind of consolidates. This is actually where it gapped up to before it ran up to the top. So it's generally like if prices, generally you can look at this as kind of, if it comes here, it's likely to kind of stick here and start to turn around. So you can use it in part of your support and resistance work if you'd like. The way you would use projections is you actually define 3 points. I'm going to scroll out just a little bit, and it allows you to project out a future run. Okay, so let's say we're looking at the chart right about here, right? Let's say we're just looking at actually where this arrow is, and we anticipate a bit of a run up. We wanted to measure what that would look like from a previous low to high. So with a projection, what you could do is you could actually say, well, this is where I want you to draw the Fibonacci level, and I want you to start it here. And then you can see that from here to here, it actually moved up to about 61% of its initial move. And then, coincidentally enough, kind of got stuck back at 50, and it's bouncing off that 50 right now. So that's kind of, I'm not a fib expert. That's kind of the way I use them, is to kind of get an idea of where stocks might start to turn around and where they might start to get kind of a little bit congested. They work pretty good for that too. So there is your bonus, how to apply fibs. Also, I'll give you another lesson on how to do Apple fibs later. So just kidding. All right. That's kind of what I wanted to show today. There's Cheryl Lepel again. I will definitely be talking about RMO in my class next week. This slide was not meant to be here, but it's one of my favorite systems in MetaStock. With the first one I started trading on. I'll talk about that next week in bonus class number 2, I guess. Thanks for coming to Guide Eyes. I want to kind of talk to you. I know about 60% of you haven't set up your trial with MetaStock yet because I asked you, and you're nice enough to answer. So we do basically offer 2 versions of the software. There's one that's the DC version. Means daily charts. It updates once an hour during the day and allows you to look at daily charts, weekly charts, monthly charts. It's $59 a month. Basically, you can buy one and get 2 free. Basically, that means that if you sign up now, October, November, December, you can run MetaStock for basically $20 a month until December 15th, which will almost be Christmas, if you can believe that. Holy cow. It seems like the older I get, the faster time goes. I don't know if that's a similar phenomenon for everybody. The real-time version of MetaStock is $250 a month. It includes like all of the Reuters news. Very, very cool product. Well priced, especially if you compare what institutions actually pay to get the same news and information. And it's the same offer. You buy one and you get 2 free. We do include Unleash the Power of MetaStock, which is just a training disc that was put together by Kelly Clement. And it just basically shows you how to use everything, goes into a real deep look on how to use things, shows a lot about backtesting, the RMO, the forecaster, looking at fundamentals, and we'll just include that for free as part of your subscription trial. To do that, visit metastock.com. But wait, that's not all you'll get. You'll also get the bootcamp session that's for customers only next week, where I'm going to sit down and just take any questions you've got, kind of show you what I think are some good workflows for managing lists and that kind of stuff. To take advantage of it, visit metastock.com 800-882-3040/summit3for1. You can also call. Our guys are very knowledgeable. All but one of them is nice. I'm just kidding. They're all nice. 800-882-3040. And you can chat online with them if you want to. MetaStock.com/saleschat. Had a couple questions that came in. RMO, Sheldon, stands for Rahul Mohindar Oscillator. And Rahul Mohindar is a CNBC panelist in India. He's also been using MetaStock since he converted from paper charts. It's a methodology he developed, and we actually like so much that we talked him into giving all the rights to us to use for MetaStock. We paid him some money for him, gave him some product. He's a great partner of ours. RMO is basically just Rahul Mohindar Oscillator. It's a great little system. It's actually how I started trading. It's still good to this very day. Harvey, that's a good suggestion. I'll put it in. And that's what I had for you guys today. I appreciate your time here. If there's anything that I don't see any more questions. If there's anything I can do for you or to help you, drop me a message at my email address. Don't use the Gmail one. I honestly literally never check it. I had, last time I looked at it, it had 572 unread emails, and, Jeffrey.Gibby@metastock.com. Bruce asks if MetaStock is usable in a Linux system. I don't know that one will run natively in Linux. It's not a suggestion, honestly, that we get a lot. But I also understand that it's not that hard to port software into different platforms. We get Apple all the time. So Don said it's possible. On Saturday, he said it's possible to use MetaStock in a Windows environment on a Linux system, but you have to kind of use the same thing you have to use on Apple. So you have to have a Windows installed. I'll put in the suggestion, and that's it. Thanks, guys. Have a good evening. Thanks for coming.